everyone, I'm Joe. I'm from Wales, except you can't really tell by my accent. And so that's where I'm coming to you from tonight. I am a disabled dancer, so I mainly use my wheelchair, and sometimes I do some movement on crutches as well. I used to be in a ballet company called Ballet Company, which was based in Wales. But now I'm a freelancer, so I don't really perform with any specific company. I just kind of do um, performances everywhere, really. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great. Welcome, Joe. We're so glad that you're with us. So I wonder who is brave and ready to ask the first question. Oh, Billy Joe has her hand up there.
Hi Joe, I'm Billy Joe,
Hi,
and
nice
I
to
got a
meet you.
question for you. How long have you started dancing?
So I started dance when I was about 4 years old. So me and my sister Holly, we went to a modern and tap class at our local town, which is about 10 miles away from where I live. And we did some classes, and the teacher was kind of like, "Ooh, I think Holly and Joe have some potential for ballet." And they kind of said, "Do you think that would be something that Joe would be interested in?" And I said yes, and that kind of started my dance journey really. So I started doing ballet when I was about 5.
So you discovered your passion for dance at 4 years old.
Yes.
Okay, you've automatically answered to one of my questions.
Oh.
Who inspired you and helped you the most?
So I'd probably say that my family inspire and help me the most. So when I stopped dancing because I got an injury and then I acquired my disability, I kind of thought that dance for me was completely done, and I didn't think it would be possible anymore. But my sister Holly had been training at the Royal Academy of Dance in London, and she went to perform at Move It, and my mum saw a stand for wheelchair dance classes in Latin and ballroom, and she kind of said, "I think this would be something that would interest Joe, because it's dancing, it's just in a completely different way." So I think without that, I wouldn't have sort of found my way back to dance. And then I would say other people that inspire me, like some of my favorite dancers. I've got quite a few different ones, but I like watching dancers who really have that's something a little bit extra. So I think that dance isn't all about technique. Technique is amazing and being able to do things, but a lot of the time, especially when you're dancing, you're telling a story. So you want to make sure that the audience can't take their eyes off you. So I really enjoy watching a dancer has that something a little bit extra that you're drawn to, and it might be that the dancer is not in the main role that night, but you see them and you can't stop watching them. So those are the sort of my two inspirations.
But your mom inspired you the most, more
Yes,
than one.
yeah, absolutely. I don't think I would have found my way back into dance without her at all.
Oh, fantastic. All of us have someone that supports us, isn't it? Thank you, Rhodey and Billy Joe. So who would like to ask their question next? So I see Josh, and then after Josh, Sophia.
What I'm Josh. What dance do you feel?
What do you feel when you dance?
Yeah, what you
So,
feel as dance, yes.
so that's quite a tricky question, but I'll try my best to answer it. So I think for me, dancing is kind of about freedom. I think sort of outside of dance, I'm not really the loudest person in the room. So I tend to sort of sit back and listen rather than say quite a lot. But I think that dancing allows me to, it's sort of a way of communicating, and my sort of most comfortable way I feel of expressing myself. So I think that dance for me is about freedom. And also I just really enjoy, the how music and movement come together. And I think that's something that really draws me to dance. I mean, even when I'm not thinking about dance, I hear a song or a piece of music and I start thinking about, well, how could I move to that? So yeah, I think it's freedom and the music are really, really important to me.
I think that fits beautifully with the question that Sophia wanted to ask.
Joe, hi Joe, I'm Sophia. Joe,
Hi.
Joe, what is your favorite music?
Oh, so if you were to go through my playlist, I have a lot of different favorite pieces of music. So I think for me, it kind of depends on a day-to-day thing. Sometimes I might be feeling more classical, like the Swan Lakes and the Nutcrackers and things like that. And then sometimes I might be feeling more sort of pop music. But I, I think, to be honest, I kind of like any music that I feel like I could move to. So I think it's a quite a big array of different styles of music. So I think on my iPod I have classical, I have pop, jazz, yeah, all different types of music. So yeah, I think people are quite surprised when I show them my iPod playlist.
Sophia, I wonder what music you like best.
I love Dua Lipa, Anima Wee, and I love like Justin Bieber.
Do you have some of those in your playlist, Joe?
I definitely have Dua Lipa in there. Yeah, definitely.
I got a favourite song, but it's from Brett Young.
Oh, what is your
It's a
favorite
country song, but I also like rock and pop too.
Oh, yeah, country's quite interesting. Has anyone seen line dancing before?
I haven't, but I'm about to see it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I've never done line dance before, but I know someone that did do line dancing, and they didn't know that when they went to a class that if you stand at the back halfway through the choreography, they all turn round and then you're at the front. So they'd kind of move themselves to the back, thinking, "Oh, I can copy everyone in front of me," and then they turn around and were a bit like, "Oh dear." So yeah, that was a funny story they told me anyway.
Who's ready to go next? Hershey's got her hand up. Well done, Hershey. And then after Hershey, Denicia.
Would you like to teach the other people with disabilities to dance? Would you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
have worked with other dancers who use wheelchairs. So recently I did a project, it was called the Snow Queen, and it was with a dance group, and there was, including me, there were 5 different professional dancers in wheelchairs. So that was really, really fun for me because professionally, I've never had the opportunity to work with another wheelchair user. So I felt like I learned quite a lot, and it was really interesting to see how there were lots of things that we did the same and also lots of things that we did quite differently, because a lot of the dancers kind of came from a more contemporary background or ballroom and Latin, but I felt like I learned a lot. But I definitely want to inspire other young disabled people and people with additional needs to really truly believe that dance is for them. Because I think, especially for me, before acquiring my disability, you can definitely see that there's a difference. So when I came back to dance, I really struggled to find somewhere that would accommodate me for classes. So I find that quite challenging. But at the moment, I'm actually working with a company called BBO Dance. I think they used to be called the British Ballet Organisation. And we are looking at how we can
Yeah.
make their exam um, routines more accessible to dancers with different accessible needs. So we're starting that, and I think that's going to be very, very exciting because I think dance can and should reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm really, really passionate about.
Well, we're
Okay.
excited about that, aren't we, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Denesia. My question is, if you didn't choose ballet as your first dance style, which other dance style would you choose?
So I really, really enjoyed doing tap and modern when I was younger. So I found that really enjoyable. But when I came back to dance, I did some other styles like ballroom and Latin, and I also did commercial as well. So I found them really enjoyable. So I would probably choose commercial or Latin and ballroom. And something that I'm also really interested in is I would love to bring some different styles into classical ballet. So I'd love to see like a cross between ballet and commercial. I think that'd be really cool, or even Latin and ballroom and ballet. So yeah, it's probably one of those two dance styles. But yeah, I think classical ballet has the potential to bring in some other dance styles, and I think that would be really exciting.
Amazing.
So it would be interesting. Hey, Dan, do you think you and Joe in a room in a wheelchair? What do you think?
That would be quite fun to explore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I've seen some of the videos of you performing with Elite, and I thought it was really, really amazing. So, yeah, I really, really enjoyed watching that. So yeah, I would definitely like to see yeah, I would love to see what might be possible in person. So yeah.
Exciting stuff. Thais.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, have you always wanted to do dancing as a career, and did you go to like a dance school instead of like a normal school, or?
Yeah, so I when I was a lot younger, I kind of wanted to be a lot of different things. So I went through a phase of I wanted to be a hairdresser, then I wanted to be a train driver, and then I wanted to do dance. So I did go to a primary school near where I lived, and then I started doing classes every Saturday in Birmingham, in the Birmingham Royal Ballet Studios with the Royal Ballet School. So I did classes there between the ages of 8 and 10 years old, and it kind of introduces you to their way of training. And I also did the same kind of thing with Elmhurst School for Ballet in Birmingham as well. And then when I was 10 years old, I auditioned for the Royal Ballet School in Richmond Park. So it's the lowest school. So that's from students from about 11 to 16 years old. And they auditioned many different dancers from across the world, and we had to do 2 rounds of auditions. And I was actually performing with Birmingham Royal Ballet at the time, so I had to ask them if they would be willing to move my performances for my audition, because there were 2 casts, so that was that was quite stressful but exciting at the same time. And so yeah, I was very lucky that at the age of 11 years old, I gained a place at the Royal Ballet School White Lodge. I went there for about 3.5 years. And in that time, we kind of did 8-hour days. So we did 4 hours of normal schoolwork, and then we did 4 hours of ballet and other classes associated with strength training and things like that. and we also did classes on a Saturday as well. So yeah, I did go to a specific dance school, but I am of the belief that whilst going to a dance school is amazing, it's not always necessary if you want to become a professional dancer. I mean, I know a couple of professional dancers who didn't go to a dance school specifically, and they just did their local ballet classes, and they've been really, really successful and done some amazing things. So yeah, while dance school is amazing and it opens up your opportunities, it's, you know, there are other routes and pathways as well.
Great, Joe. Emily.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned like a setback that you experienced from, I think, an injury, and because I've experienced something similar, because I had to do an operation, so I had to stop dancing at I Can Dance for a while. I wanted to ask if you had to like shift your mindset or like change your mindset to, because I know you said your mom helped you like get back to dancing, but I feel like to an extent you also have to have the individual strength to like get back to your passion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I had been training at the Royal Ballet School and I'd grown quite a lot. So I'd always been what they sort of had called someone who was naturally flexible, which is amazing for dance. But when it comes to other things in life, and also when you're growing and training, it means you kind of have to work that much harder than everyone else. Um, so when I was about 14 years old, I sustained a knee injury on my right knee, and the injury itself wasn't too bad. But because I put so much stress on my left leg to kind of compensate for that, I then also ended up injuring my left knee, and then I had to have an operation to kind of have it fixed. But sort of after my operation, I had complications, and that sort of led to me acquiring my disability. But to answer your question, I definitely felt that there had to be quite a big shift in my mindset. Um, I had been very used to being able to, you know, going to a ballet class, and whilst there were challenges, because I was told by a lot of the teachers at the school that I had quite a wide range of facility, there were definitely challenges, but it with that facility that enabled me to be able to reach my goals a lot quicker. And so I'd been used to, you know, trying out a movement and keeping on practicing it, and I got it, and you know, I kept going on and on and on and things like that. So then coming now into a mindset of, oh, I'm now a wheelchair and a crutch user, it was a massive shift for me, because I had to think, well, how am I going to move, you know, just in everyday life, not just for dancing. And I didn't dance or have anything to do with it for about 2.5, 3 years, because I think I wasn't really ready to embrace that who I was now. And so I having that time away sort of allowed me to embrace who I was as a person before coming back to my passion. And then coming back, I think what really helped me is seeing other dancers in those wheelchair Latin ballroom classes, and they sort of wore their disability as a badge of honor, and they didn't try and hide away from it. And I probably wasn't at that stage just yet, but that really inspired me to kind of think of, well, you know, that it's possible. And I think even now you can, for me personally, I can kind of think, especially working a lot with dancers who don't have a disability and who are predominantly standing dancers, I can sometimes think, what if? Because, you know, it can be quite tough sometimes being the only dancer in a room that uses a wheelchair and crutches. But then I sort of have to remind myself that, okay, they can do things that maybe I find challenging, but then also on the flip side, I can do a lot of things that they can't do either. So I think it kind of balances it out. And I think as well for me, especially working with a standing partner, because I've had some experience previously of working with a standing partner, and now I'm a wheelchair user, it kind of gives me both perspectives, and hopefully that allows me to create some really interesting stuff. But I definitely agree that there was a massive shift in my mindset. And I think for me personally, that is something that is probably to a lesser extent still ongoing. I think I'm becoming more and more comfortable with who I am as a dancer and what my possibilities are. But there are some days where I'm just like, ugh, but you know, I think that's with any dancer really.
What is your favorite moves? of
Your
dancing?
favorite move? Is that your question, Ruby?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so I've got a few different moves. I think people watching me, they kind of call it my signature moves. And I think because it does use some influences from classical ballet, but it's not completely classical ballet. So we've had to, me and my sister Holly, have kind of named some of them. So there's one that she likes to call the fly past because she says I look like an aeroplane, is where I push really, really fast in my wheelchair and I kind of take my arms up above my head and then kind of do a back bend as I kind of let the chair roll. And so she likes to call that a fly past. And then other people have kind of told me that they kind of know that, you know, it's a Joe piece or it's a Joe performance when they see me do a lot of turns in my chair, because I like to do a lot of different turns in my wheelchair, and I've got sort of three smaller wheels on my wheelchair. So I've got my two big ones, and then I've got two small ones at the front and a little one at the back, and that's on what's called an anti-tip bar. So to be able to get as many turns as possible, I tend to lean back a little bit and put all my force onto that back wheel, which then kind of makes me turn quite fast, which is really quite fun.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Ted.
Nice to meet you.
And what is favorite food?
Ooh, my favorite food. So I am actually I'm a vegan, so I like to try out different foods a lot and sort of experiment with different vegan recipes and things like that. But I would probably say that my favorite food is pasta.
Oh, who else is a pasta? Thumbs up for pasta.
That's
I like
good.
spaghetti
That's good.
Do you have a dance move when you eat pasta?
I don't have a specific dance move, but if I was to put one to it, I'd probably say it would be me moving as fast as possible in my wheelchair to try and get the food as quickly as possible. You just see me go like this, past like that. Yeah, so injuries and complications, I think, are something that every dancer, one way or another, sort of encounters. I think it's very, very rare to find a professional dancer who hasn't had a period where they were injured and not able to perform. So for me, in terms of injuries, ever since I was young, I actually did have some problems with my left knee, which is quite interesting now because my disability actually predominantly affects my left leg. So I don't know, it kind of gets you thinking maybe there was something there sort
But
of
I was actually asking, my kid was actually asking obstacles, and that kind of answered your question. And the second question was, what tips would you give to those who aspiring to dance?
Yeah, so I would give anyone who wants to dance, I would say, don't be afraid to look different to other people. I think, especially for me, coming from a classical ballet background, um, you are kind of taught that everyone has to look the same, you have to have all really long legs, all these things. But I think realizing that it's okay to look different actually enabled me to reach a much greater potential than I thought was possible. And I think it's really interesting to see now with a lot of different dance companies. I think they are also starting to embrace the fact that difference is amazing. And so that's sort of what I would say. But also, I would say as well, don't let setbacks and obstacles stop you from realizing why you want to dance. Because I know a lot of dancers and also sometimes me as well, who they encountered an obstacle and they thought, okay, I'm gonna walk away from this, and they kind of forget why they did it in the first place. Um, so I would kind of say to anyone who wants to be a dancer, remember being different is fantastic. Make sure that you show what makes you you. And also, if you are determined to do something, you can make it happen. I mean, it may not be the same pathway as everyone else, but that's also absolutely fine. So I think just believe that you can do things and you will be able to do things. And no one, I think for me, I've kind of come to that mindset because I love dancing and no one's sort of going to tell me any different. I mean, I was having a conversation with someone this morning, a director of a company, and we were talking about things, and um he was kind of saying about, possibilities with me being a disabled dancer. And I said to him that I was worried sometimes that being a disabled dancer, I wouldn't get employed because of my differences. But now I've sort of come to the idea that there is going to be a way, even if it means that I have to start my own company or I have to create the piece that allows me to perform. So there's always a way, I think. Yeah, so that I think if that's something I can share with anyone who wants to dance is don't be put off by any, rejections or obstacles. I think rejections are part of the job, but I think if you don't let them define what's possible, then that's the most important thing.
I think that's so inspiring, Joe, for everybody. That I think we all agree with that, right, guys? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're all on the same page with that.
So
Our
my
differences.
question was,
Hang on, Rodi. That our differences are what help us to make our dancing so amazing. You've got some lovely hearts there from Ruby, who's loving it. And I think everybody's just finding it so inspiring to hear you talk, Joe, and to encourage all of you. Are you all feeling even more encouraged about dancing?
Most
That's
definitely.
exactly what we
it
want.
was such interesting that my question was answered before me asking it.
It's almost as if he could read your mind, Rodi.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you, Joe. Because you know that I got Down syndrome. If you had any advice, what would you say to the people who have Down syndrome?
So I would actually say that embrace the fact that you have Down syndrome. So I have actually worked with I worked with a girl called Caris a couple of years ago who had Down syndrome, and she wasn't the most verbal of people that I've worked with. But what I found amazing is that given time and developing sort of a relationship with her, some of the ideas that she came up with were some of the most creative things that I'd ever seen ever. Like I couldn't quite believe some of the things that she came up with. I thought it was amazing. And I would love to have the opportunity to work with more dancers who have Down syndrome, because I absolutely love the fact that every single dancer that I've worked with that has Down syndrome is so smiley, so positive, and the ideas that they come up with to create movement is absolutely amazing. So I think my advice would be, it sort of comes along the line of difference, that embrace it, because there's no one else, I don't think, like you in the dance industry. And I think that, you know, people want to see difference, people want to see themselves reflected on stage. And so I definitely think that embracing your differences is really important. But also, and this goes, I think, not just for Down syndrome, but for anyone with additional needs or with disabilities, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think I was afraid to ask for help because I was thinking, oh, well, are they going to kick me out the studio because I'm taking more time and things like that? And I have had some slightly negative experiences, but I've also had some really positive ones as well. And I think working with others and having that support from other people, you learn so much and you progress and improve so much as well. So I think the two things I would say are, embrace the fact that you are a dancer with Down syndrome, because that is amazing. And also, don't be afraid to ask for support if you need it. You know, it looks like you have a massively supportive group here who I'm sure will lend it to you in bucket loads.
Uh, I just one day I like to be a dancer in the future, and I just need some advice on it. That's all.
Joe,
Yeah,
Billy Joe, you're a dancer now. You are.
absolutely. You're a
You are a
dancer.
dancer now.
It doesn't matter.
I do. I do like I like to dance like hip hop and tap.
Well, that's amazing. And it doesn't matter that you do things differently or that you're different from anyone else. As Juliet said, you're a dancer. And, you know, someone once said to me, I think they introduced me in a show and they said, some of us have two left feet and some of us have two left wheels, but some of us are just born to dance. And I think that sort of stuck with me. Um, but, you know, if I can do anything in terms of helping or supporting, I would definitely be up for that, because with my work with BBO Dance, we want to make sure that we cater to as many different people as possible. So my hope is personally that we will have a syllabus that years in the future anyone can do.
My question is, also as a wheelchair users, we sometimes have fails by using them. Do you ever get little fails by using your wheelchair during dance?
Yes, so there have definitely been some challenges for me using my wheelchair in dance. I once did a show where I was doing a turn and I hadn't realised that my dance wheelchair, I'd not clipped the wheels in properly, because when it goes in the car and I transport it, I take the wheels off and I sort of put it in a bag and carry it. And I was doing these turns and I was like, yes, I'm turning, I'm turning, I'm turning. And as I turned, my wheel flew off. But luckily, I managed to catch it. So I kind of made a thing of holding the wheel, kind of putting it together, moving it around, and then clicking it back in. And I've also had things as well where I've burst tires, I've snapped spokes, you know. So I think being a wheelchair user and doing dance, I've sort of had to learn what movements are going to potentially cause problems like that. And I don't know if you get this, Denicia, at all, but sometimes when I'm moving really fast, especially with my dance wheelchair, I don't have any brakes on it. So my previous dance wheelchair, I was doing a piece and I was really going for it. and you know, going really fast. And I was like, this is amazing. But I didn't realize when I'd come off the stage that I'd, you know, got tire burns all up my arms. And so I also sometimes, to prevent that from happening, wear I think they're bicycle gloves, but they don't have fingers on them, so they just kind of come up to here on your hand. So yeah, it's kind of learning what works for you. And I also find it really, really helpful to talk to other wheelchair users, because they all have their own things that they do to sort of fine tune their wheelchairs for performances, as I'm sure you do as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joe. Some great stories there. I just imagine a wheel rolling off the stage. Josh, your last question.
My last question, what do you do since lockdown?
So when lockdown happened, I had just gained my contract with Ballet Cymru. So I'd just done a year's working with them as an apprentice on something called the pre-professional program, which kind of bridges the gap between the end of year training and company life. So I'd just done a year's work on that alongside finishing my graduate year of a dance degree. So I was quite busy. And then I got my contract as a full company dancer with Ballet Cymru, and then the lockdown happened. So sort of during lockdown, they engaged us in some digital work where we you know, did tutorials and videos and things like that online. And then later on in the year, we started being able to come back in the studio and did some research and development for some new works and things like that, and also did some films that were put online. And then I danced with Ballet Cymru for a year, and I performed in their version of Giselle, and also a triple bill, which was 3 different performances in one. In Giselle, it was quite cool because in the second act, instead of having ghosts, they made us zombies. So that was quite an interesting character for us. So you could sort of be quite out there and not worry about, oh, what am I going to look like and things like that. And then I left Ballet Cymru at the end of 2021, after I had the opportunity of performing with the Royal Ballet as the first ever wheelchair and crutch using dancer to perform with the company at the Paralympics homecoming ceremony. And then since then, I've done some more work with them. So I'm actually going to be performing down in London with them on the 9th and 10th of September this year. And then sort of after that, I've just done a show where I've had to pretend to be an 8-year-old, so that was quite funny. And I'm also doing some work with English National Ballet later on in the year as well, so we'll see what happens there. But I will definitely keep you all informed, and I would love to, you know, come and see you all very, very soon.
Oh, we look forward to it, and we're just so excited by all the wonderful work that you're doing out there and bringing more awareness to just how wonderful differences in dance is. So I'm going to hand over to Emily to do the final conclusion of discussions today, and a thanks to you.
I think I just feel very inspired by everything that I've heard, and it's made me reflect on a lot of things, and I feel like a lot of what Joe said and a lot of what we stand for are very similar. I sort of was thinking about that as we were all talking, because I feel like I can dance focus on the can-do mindset and believing in yourself, and that's a lot of what Joe was saying today. So it was very nice to hear about that, and it was nice to hear everyone's questions too. They were really interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
So lovely to meet you all. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.